What's up, guys? My name is Alan.
I'm Josh Jarbo.
And I'm Alex Jackson.
We're here to talk to you guys about UFC 316. We're just going to run over a few of the fights that are on the card. We're going to talk about a few other things and just talk about all things MMA. So without further ado, let's get going. So the first fight of the night on the main card is going to be Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. So with those two guys, I know Jarbo has his opinions on how wonderful Kevin Holland is. And while I love him, there's nobody I like watching win more. He's a phenomenal guy, very entertaining, doesn't say no to anything. But personally, I feel like Vicente Luque is ascending, even though he's had a few stumbling blocks. He fought really well in the past. I think that he will take this. I think that Kevin Holland is a phenomenal fighter, but I just don't really see him being able to get back on the horse against a guy like Vicente Luque. Jarbo, what do you think?
You listen, my heart is always going to be with Kevin Holland. Always.
Right.
Even though he win, lose, or draws, I'm going with Kevin Holland. I haven't seen too many Luque fights, but Kevin Holland is coming off a loss. So that's something we got to think about too. But I'm always going to go, my money's on Kevin Holland, win, lose, or draw. So that's where I stand on it.
Hey, I love him. I want to see him celebrate. You know what I mean? I love listening to him talk. I'll never forget when he knocked out Jacare Souza with that back fist from the ground, just popped him right in his chin. And it was like, we saw it. And I remember looking at you and being like, oh, I bet that hurt. And then I was like, I think he's asleep.
Yeah.
I think that shot right there put him to sleep. So I love Kevin Holland. Alex, I know that you've got some input on this. So what are you thinking with the whole fight?
So if I was voting with my heart, I would say Kevin Holland as well.
That's right.
I've seen it too many times, so many careers. Vicente Luque is on the up right now. I 100% agree with you, Alan. A lot of fighters have a dip and a resurgence, and I know this isn't quite the same thing, but like Vitor Belfort, obviously TRT had a little bit to play with that, but but there's been so many careers like Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, Daniel Cormier, where they've had kind of a dip, where they've lost a couple, and then they literally ascend to the top of the sport of whatever weight class they're in. And I've seen it that's 3 weight classes right there that I just named.
Yeah, absolutely. And also something you left off, Vitor Belfort, first fight in the UFC was none other than Dothan, Alabama.
That's
because true. New York, I believe it was New York State, had the event. And the night before, they basically shut everything down and they transitioned the entire event to Dothan, Alabama. So big shout out to Dothan, Alabama, guys.
Yes.
But so with that, we're 2-1. We think we all agree that Kevin Holland's an amazing fighter.
And we can all agree, Alan, every time he votes for somebody, he loses money on it. So we're going to go with Kevin Holland's winning this one.
Hey, listen, if I love you, unfortunately, usually it turns out pretty sad. So yeah, for this one, we're split on this, but overall,
I had to tell him last time about Riddler. He didn't believe me. He was going with his heart. I said Riddler's the guy, So
I'm just used to seeing people stumble once they enter the UFC. Most of the time when people enter the UFC, they immediately they'll either look good in their first fight and then they'll start sliding down, or they'll do what a lot of them, even champions like Pettis and people like that, have lost their very first fight in the UFC and then gone on to be champion. So I've been a little bit slow on De Ritter, but he's probably going to be just
Luque and Holland's, both of their records are both pretty even though. So I mean, it can go either way. Yeah. But when I'm biased like that and it's either way, I'm always going with my favorite, Kevin Holland.
One thing's for sure, it's not going to go to the distance. I don't think it'll go to the distance by any stretch. I would say that's going to be one of the most exciting fights of the night,
for sure.
So I brought something up for the people too. So
yeah,
we have this right here. So this is how I'm judging this fight. It all depends on what you think of Joaquin Buckley. If you think he is a top 5 fighter, then I guess you could say he beats Kevin Holland. I think Joaquin Buckley's very good, but I don't.
Right.
I mean, because I think he's very good, I can justify this loss.
Right.
If you don't think Joaquin Buckley's good, then I could see why you think Kevin Holland wins this fight all day.
Right, and that's why I'm looking forward to the fight night in Atlanta, is being able to really determine if Joaquin Buckley is as good as he looks, because let me tell you
But
something.
he's on the talking about Ascend. He's one that's coming
He's
up right now
flying
too.
up.
So
Listen, you got to fly up
Yeah.
the leaderboards if you're willing to go to a UFC weigh-in and look at Ian Gary and be like, "Hey, man, I want to have a problem with you.
Yeah, that's
You're the
true.
guy I want to have a problem
as much
with."
as I hate the cuck Ian Gary,
Yeah,
he is on the up and up right now, and he
Ian
looked
Gary's a good
good in
fighter.
his last fight. So
Yes.
last 2 fights, really, he looked great. So we're just gonna see where he lands, but I think he's a top contender right now in the UFC for sure.
Absolutely, but on that note, I agree with what Alex was saying about the fact of it just depends on whether or not you think Buckley's good, and I think Buckley's pretty good. I want to see Kamaru Usman win, but I think that Buckley has probably the highest percentage chance.
And he's a strong, big boy, so you got to think about that and take it into account. But if so, Luque beat Buckley, correct?
Yes. Oh no, Buckley beat Luque. Sorry.
Well, so
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kevin Holland's better than Buckley. That's just my opinion. I know he's a bigger guy, but rounded, not overall wise, I think Holland's better.
I think that Buckley is well-rounded. I think that Holland is well-rounded too, just kind of in a different way.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Alex?
So Kevin Holland, I'm sorry, Joaquin Buckley beat Vicente Luque via TKO in the second round. So he caught him. So do what you want with that. Like, everybody gets caught and every dog has its day in the UFC. Like, we've seen Cain Velasquez fall to people that Cain Velasquez shouldn't have lost to.
Cain Velasquez will shoot your ass too. Watch out. Don't mess with his family.
All right, so moving on, we've got Mario Batista versus Patchy Mix. So Patchy Mix is coming over to the UFC from another organization.
I think this is the most interesting fight of the night, honestly, in my opinion.
It's going to really determine a lot. It's going to tell you whether or not Patchy Mix is for real. He's either going to come out and immediately we're going to go, all right, this guy's on the Justin Gaethje path to success. And even kind of back to our original point, Justin Gaethje had a couple stumbling blocks. I mean, Michael Johnson and him, that was one of the best fights I've ever seen in my entire life. And so I think that Patchy Mix has the potential to really show us something here. But Batista has been tough in every single fight that I've seen him fight. I've never seen him.
And he only has 2 losses in the UFC. So
and he's always in at every fight that I've watched. He's always in that weight. The smaller guys, usually it's the higher technique, higher work rate. It's a fun fight. I'm looking forward to it. I'd like to see Mix win. I don't really have a dog in the fight, though. What do you think?
I mean, I don't really have a dog in the fight. I do like Batista, but the highlight reels I've seen from Mix and the little bit I know about him, he's a dog. So I mean, I think this can go either way. And I would like to see a new, because one thing we're losing, we got a lot of guys that have retired. We need some new up and coming talent.
Absolutely.
I mean, we need it. And so I think if Mix is good as his highlight reels are, this would be a good potential top 5 guy if he can really keep it up.
Absolutely.
And, coming from another organization to the UFC has always been a big deal for a lot of people because there's not a lot of talent in these other organizations. But if you can come to the UFC and compete,
right?
And Batista, that's a great person to put him at first, who's only 9-2,
9-2 UFC record alone,
which is solid record. So you got to think about that. And if you want, I mean, I think this is the most interesting matchup of the night, just because we don't know a ton about Mix, but the highlight reel show he's a bad dude.
He's tough, man.
So we're gonna see this coming Saturday. So I'm ready for it.
So my pick is gonna be Batista, and so I'll show y'all specifically what I'm talking about. So
I like Batista. I like him a lot, honestly.
Alan will probably remember this fight because I didn't know a whole lot about this Blackshear guy before this fight. So Blackshear Batista. So he won by unanimous decision, dominated the whole fight. And I mean, they went to the ground, they were on the feet, throwing the whole time, everything. And the Jose Aldo fight. Both of those fights showed he is 100% game to throw down with anybody, anytime, anywhere.
And Aldo's a former champion. Even though he's older, anytime you're competing against a former champion and looking good, you gotta give him credit for it. So
yes, and I have an extremely hard time voting against anybody who I know is game to throw down. And after this Blackshear fight, I went back and watched probably 6 or 7 of his fights at least, and he's game as well.
He's
So
tough, man. He's very, very tough.
after
So
seeing that,
moving on past. Sorry, what'd you say?
it's just hard to vote against him. I don't know a whole lot about Patchy Mix though, so I can't. It's
Well, that's
weighing
'cause he's
against
up and
nothing in my
down,
mind.
he's in another league, but I mean,
Mhm.
he's a bad dude from what I've seen. So I think it's gonna. If I'm gonna put my money on somebody, I'm always gonna go with somebody who's already got a proven record, which is Batista.
Yeah.
But I would love. I'm not gonna be upset if Batista loses. I'm
Right.
not gonna be upset about it because I would like. We need some upcoming talent. This would be a guy that I mean, he looks good. He's a big dude. He's in shape. See what his cardio is about. And let's see if it goes 3 rounds. But these two like to bang, so I don't know if it's going to be 3 rounds. You know?
Right. I agree. I feel like Batista, the fact that he's got such extensive experience in the UFC, that's always it's always
Yeah.
helpful. It's always apparent. The
11
only
fights.
times that it's not apparent is when it's either they've put a brand new guy who's coming from another organization and he's seasoned and they throw him in against a wet dish rag and then he wrecks somebody because they're trying to build the fight after the fight because the
Right.
people they really want him to fight have already been booked, so he's got to wait 6 months. But usually Dana likes to give people a challenge on their first fight, and I would say that's exactly what that is. That's the UFC saying, "Hey, come and prove that you want to be here." And if he wins this fight, then I would say that's definitely where it's headed. But moving on, we've got Gaslam versus Piper. Piper got that good hair back.
That's the talk of the week. His new hairline that he got, his transplant.
That was the best comment from the entire media time for me. I was so excited to see Joe Piper get a little bit
He's a little mad about it.
He's a little aggressive. He's a little sensitive about it.
I don't know if that's an insult or, but the guy even said that it looked good. So you got to take those compliments. You can't be all aggressive and defensive.
You can't have hair surgery and then be sensitive.
Right,
okay?
exactly.
If you lose all of your hair that God gave you and then you go and get some hair that somebody else gave you and that's your head now,
Yeah,
that's okay. You can do that. But like people should be allowed to say like you have AstroTurf on your head.
That's true.
Like that's not wrong. But anyways, say all that to say Joe Piper is absolutely going to knock out Kevin Gastelum. That is my 8 gold stars fight of the night. Joe Piper hits at one of the highest levels in the UFC.
He's one of the hardest
hitting. That's what
in the UFC. Yeah,
he's one of the hardest hitters. He always shows up. He always performs well. Kelvin Gastelum.
Gastelum has the experience though. He's got 20 fights in the UFC, 20 plus fights. He's got 22 fights in the UFC versus 5.
Right.
So and then Piper's also coming off of he had to pull out of his last fight because he was sick. Now, you can say what you want, but if you have to pull out and you've been sick, how focused has he been? He had the hair transplant. Is he focused on fighting or is he focused on his looks?
Right.
You got to take all that into account. I like Gastelum. I like Piper. This one's like one of those that it's like an even tie for where I feel, and my heart leans towards Piper, but I'm going to go with Gastelum just because of the experience.
Yeah, he has the experience. And look, how many times has Kelvin Gastelum shown you something that you didn't expect to see?
Yep.
It's really the deal. Kelvin Gastelum, every time, look, I rarely pull for him. I rarely pull for him because most of the time he's fighting somebody that I freaking love. And a lot of these fighters, people like Gastelum, he's able to go in and give a lot of these fighters issues. He's able to give people issues that don't usually have them. He's got great hands. He handles range well. The question is he fast enough to avoid what Joe Piper is going to be trying to put on him?
That's the problem. Joe Piper's got that one-hit knockout power. You get hit by those hands, you're done. You're going to go to sleep. So you got to really, I think experience is going to win here, but Piper, he's by far one of my favorite fighters. I like him a lot, so we'll see how that one goes.
He's strong, man. He's real strong. Alex,
So
what do you think about it?
Y'all know this 100%. I love Kelvin Gastelum. He is one of my favorite fighters. I love watching him fight. But I'm also very real at visualizing their talent levels. I don't think
What's
that
the reach
Kelvin
difference
Gastelum,
right there, Alex?
let's see, 71.5 for Kelvin and 75 inches for Piper.
I'm gonna have to change it. I'm gonna have to go with Piper then because reach I think always plays a huge advantage, and then the way Piper hits and that 3.5, 4.5 inch reach advantage that goes a long ways.
But
I'm gonna go with Piper on that one.
Izzy, when he fought Israel Adesanya, dude, from someone who thought Kelvin was winning that fight for the first 2.5 rounds. But I don't know if the reach is
This
gonna
is a
play,
close one. I mean,
but
it's a close one.
That's gonna be a
but I
good
know
fight.
for a fact that Joe Pyfer is probably a better fighter at this point in their careers. But I would love to see Kelvin get a win in the column and just make a run and do really well to end off his career. Because he is kind of winding towards the end of it.
Yeah, he's older.
Yeah, he's
But
getting
they're both
older.
pretty old.
He's had some absolute wars, like that Izzy fight. He's fought Paulo Costa, and he's had just, I mean, brutal fights.
And just having the experience against those two. I mean, Paulo Costa is a very experienced guy, and then Izzy, who's a former multiple champion, multiple defenses guy, and you hung in there with him. That goes a long way fighting somebody of that talent level.
Well, the only reason why he ever fought those guys in the first place is because he had a weight cutting problem. And so if you have a weight cutting problem, I have a hard time picking you because out of all of the disrespects that you could ever have to another human, I feel like if you agreed to fight each other and then one of you shows up and they didn't do what was agreed upon, then it just taints my, the Macy Barber situation.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, I like Macy Barber. I love watching her fight.
Anybody that does the catch weight fights and stuff, it's like, man, dude, you didn't follow the rules. You didn't stick to what we said. As a man, you gotta always hold something
And
against
the overweight people win at like a large rate.
Right.
But my thing is that when you're missing weight and you're unable to fight because you miss so much, or if you're missing weight, that's a discipline thing.
Yeah.
And when I say that, I mean, it's either a physical discipline thing or it's a mental discipline thing. Either you want to weigh something that is physically impossible for your body to weigh because you feel like you're going to get an advantage over a different group, or you're afraid of the people above or below you. And then there's also the mental part of, well, the way that I know that I'm in shape at every wrestling tournament that I ever went to or any event that I ever participated in was I weighed exactly what the scale said. If it said I needed to be 155 pounds,
We always made
155
I don't think we, either one of us or Alex, I don't think you missed weight ever one time, did you either?
Nope.
In my senior year, I was cutting 20 pounds.
You got to weigh in the same day.
You got to make that weight.
And so for me, when you've got all of that time and then you have a whole nother day to get rehydrated, eat.
See, we were competing on the same day and we never,
Right.
and we still made weight. So you get that extra day, that gives you plenty of time to get your energy back, your stamina back, get some good rest.
Yeah.
You're ready to roll. There's no excuses in my opinion on that either.
There's no excuse to miss weight. So glad he made weight this time, but still just bad taste.
This is the next one's the next very interesting fight. And they've been going at it this week too.
This one's really good.
I mean, this one's good. So you got Pena versus Harrison.
Yep.
And they have been going ham this week in the press conference and just back and forth with each other. My thing with Harrison, I would like to see her win, but Pena looked fantastic in her last fight. I mean,
she's good. A lot of people forget that she's a very, very high level wrestler, but she doesn't lean on it as hard as other people do at times. She has good hands. She has good movement. Where with Kayla is an absolute bulldozer, dude. When I tell you that she's the type of fighter, we just talked about Joe Piper, Kayla Harrison.
This is a female version
same
of
thing.
this. Yeah.
Like, bring the pain,
Absolutely.
UFC old school, just bleed on the shirt and the forehead. You know what I mean? I want to see Kayla Harrison do well. I've always been a big supporter of hers, even when she was in other organizations, but I love Juliana Pena. I think she's a great champion. I think she's been great for the UFC.
But here's one thing you got to take into account. Harrison's been struggling with weight cut, and that always plays a big factor in the wins.
She always fought at heavier weights.
Right. And so this is going to be, like, they said something about her, like, bleeding or something, or throwing up blood or something at her, like, after weigh-ins or at weigh-ins or something. And if you're struggling that hard, that's a big deal.
Kind of like what we went to before of, like, unfortunately 145 has basically disappeared from the UFC women's division. It'd be nice. To me, I would rather see Kayla fight in the 145 division, bring in some bigger, tougher women. Maybe, we don't know who they are, but I promise you that they exist around the world and they're looking to compete.
Yeah.
So the more weight classes, the better opportunity we have for high-level fights. I'm glad that Pena and Harrison are fighting because I'd love to see them fight. I think it's a really interesting style matchup.
Fight right here.
But I've got, kind of like we're talking about, I'm going with Pena because she's fought in the UFC. She's the champ. She's bringing the belt to the place. Okay. That's a
That's
very
always an
big
advantage no matter what. Yeah.
Kayla Harrison does not lose, is not used to losing by any stretch. I see her putting up a great fight. She definitely has the opportunity to catch Pena. She definitely has the opportunity to win, but I'm sticking with Pena.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Pena too. To be honest.
So
What do you think, Alex?
I have a differing opinion. I think Kayla Harrison is going to come in,
Hey,
take
we know how
Pena
that goes
down.
when you have a differing opinion, Alex.
Yeah.
Yep. But so when Nunes and Pena fought, how many times did that go to the ground? Once for about
Nunes
30
and Pena?
seconds. Yeah.
Right.
I think
Yeah, she
Kayla
only had a few
Harrison
takedowns.
I think Kayla Harrison has the tools, the know-how to not only get her to the ground, but absolutely maul her once she gets her there. I think that Kayla Harrison is
But
absolutely the
Harrison only
most
got one
star-studded.
fight in the UFC and won it.
Unfinished.
So you gotta
Yeah.
take that into account too.
So I agree with you. But she is also the most star-studded person to come into the UFC. And when I say that, obviously Ronda Rousey was super hyped up and had all the accolades, whatever you want to call it, and the hype coming in. This is the only person, like Ronda Rousey's the only person she's really lost to outside of her one loss in MMA in anything ever. She has 2 total losses in her entire career. One's in judo in the Olympics, and one is
Another one was in MMA, and I watched it, and she didn't look good.
correct.
It was in the PFL, correct?
Yes.
And we can all agree PFL is not the talent that the UFC has.
They've got
But
some people,
they-
like we're talking
I
about with
mean-
like
They've had a bunch of people come over in the past 5 years alone. Probably 3 or 4 of our current champions have been in the PFL at some point.
was DeRitter Bellator or PFL? He was one champion.
Yeah,
he
he's
was
a
he
one
was I think he was a 2 division 1 champion.
Yep.
And one championship, Demetrius Johnson went over there and got slept. That was unbelievable. That's the best fighter I've ever seen in my life. I think that Demetrius Johnson
By
is
far the
by
most
far
well-rounded.
most well-rounded.
Always.
Listen, when
You
he
can talk about John Jones. Demetrius Johnson was better.
absolutely
The flying knee knockout,
no,
the
dude,
arm bar.
the arm bar coming
flying
down to the
arm
slam,
bar.
dude. That was
Yes.
really the one.
That
Was
was
the
the
flying
one.
arm bar, because when he did that, when he elevated, as soon as they got to that pause where they were in the air, he turned him, and instead of driving into the ground, he let go with his underarm
That's
hand,
great.
reached up with his top hand, and when that guy landed, he just put that
Boom.
leg right over his head and sat back with it. And I was
Like,
just
to
like,
do that in the air is impressive.
that's
as
Jason
crap.
Bourne,
Yeah.
That's
James
video
Bond.
game stuff.
Correct.
That is
Literally.
video game. Absolutely, yeah.
He was on X Games mode for
He
sure.
was.
But anyways, back to Pena and Harrison. So you're going to take Harrison. You got anything else to put with that?
I do think she has more confidence than anyone she's ever fought. I think Harrison has more confidence than anyone Pena's ever fought, including
I agree.
Amanda Nunes. Because I think
I
Amanda
agree.
Nunes
I
had
don't
her.
agree with that just because Nunes is a champion. She had the most confidence. I don't think the
Kayla Harrison has 2 gold medals at her house from
that
the
is true.
Olympics.
That is
dude.
And
true.
a silver.
Amanda Nunes doesn't.
But we can all agree when you get punched in the face, your whole life changes when you get punched in the face. How you react
I don't
to
disagree.
it is different.
I don't
you know?
disagree. But
So-
Henry Cejudo, Triple C, he is
Yeah.
he did it opposite. He had 1 gold and he had 2 UFC belts.
Right.
I can see Kayla having 2 UFC belts and 2 gold medals. She's that talented for sure.
Are you taking Pena? Or are you
I'm taking
Harrison?
Pena because I believe in the champion. I really do believe in
Yeah.
Pena. But I do 100% see it. It could go either way, for sure. Kayla Harrison is an absolute monster. I love her. She's phenomenal. If I was picking with my heart, I'd pick Kayla. But I love Juliana Pena too, and I think that she's got a lot of great stuff going for her right now, and she's riding on a really good high. A lot of people are supporting her. That's important. The way that you feel
She
going
looked
into a
focused
fight,
too.
she looked great. So I think that we've got that one. Then other than that, we just have the main event, which is O'Malley versus Marab.
Oh, and this is a good
I'm going to let you start this one off because I've got plenty to say.
So we both hate Sean O'Malley. You love to hate him, but also, I mean, Alex, where do you stand with Sean O'Malley? We know Alyssa loves Sean O'Malley. That's her golden boy. And we love to see him get knocked out like he did at UFC 300.
I wouldn't
But
say
my
I
thing
love
is-
Sean O'Malley. I would say that sorry. I wouldn't say I love Sean O'Malley. I would say that I love the antics. I love that he is game to fight and that he has that attitude we haven't seen anything like that besides Ian Gary close to it
Or except this
since.
guy right
That's
here,
what I was about to say.
Conor McGregor. But that's
Since
also Sean
Conor
O'Malley
McGregor.
wants to be this guy right here. So
Yes, and that's Conor laid the blueprint, and he said, "I'm going to
right,
follow that because I saw how much money it can make, and plus, I'm a really good
absolutely.
fighter on top of it." You put all that together, you have a superstar. Sean O'Malley is a superstar, but when you run into a buzzsaw like Davishvili, it's hard to run through that wall. It is so hard, and I think he might
You
be
know,
pound for pound one of the best fighters in the UFC, like top
we
5.
talked about reach earlier, right? Reach plays a big advantage, but look at the first fight. Now, I will say I don't feel like Sean was focused, and he even said he wasn't focused on that fight. He felt like mentally he was beat. He's cut out the drinking, the smoking, everything else. He's not even dyeing his hair for this fight.
I'm glad.
That's a big deal too, because that's his character. He said he got too involved with the sugar character. But when somebody's already beat you, you've got that in your head. That mental game's already lost there.
Right.
And another thing about O'Malley, he does have that one hit knockout power, but Marab, his cardio is better than anybody's in the UFC. I would say probably better than anybody in the UFC. So you have to take that into account. If you're going 5 rounds, he's going to be able to hang in there with you no matter what, even though you got the reach on him. And then when you're getting tired, he's going to beat you up. So you got to really think about that. Take that into account. He's so quick. He can take you down. I think O'Malley may lose this one again. He's already at a disadvantage just due to the loss already, the cardio. Marab's the champ. I mean, this one's one that, I mean, as much as I hate O'Malley, I would like to see him come back and win just because you always like the comeback story.
Right.
But Marab's winning this, in my opinion. If I put my money where my mouth is, I'm not going to go with what I would like to see happen. Marab's winning this one all day long.
All
What
right.
do you think?
So for me, I'm going to
You've
go.
been leaning a little bit towards Sean O'Malley, haven't you?
I'm going to go a little bit on a tangent here. So when Sean O'Malley was coming up through the ranks, he was phenomenal to watch. I think that he has some of the most creative and talented striking ability that maybe the UFC has ever seen. The guy is an absolute artist. I think he's phenomenal. The biggest gap in his game has always been his wrestling, his jiu-jitsu, and just like everybody else, they tell you, man, my jiu-jitsu is great, my wrestling's great, and then they get out there with somebody whose jiu-jitsu or wrestling is actually great, and they look like they're at a normal Thursday afternoon class,
training.
and we're doing 5-round Thursdays, or 10-round Tuesdays, whatever it may be, but I've just never really seen anybody gain an insane amount of grappling talent once they're over 20 years old. The majority of your grappling talent is developed through fine motor skills at a young age. And so when you've got people like Marab who have been doing this their entire life, whose life has been focused around being able to manipulate other people's bodies in a sport that specifically allows you to manipulate bodies, with kickboxing, boxing, all those other things, you don't have to worry about that. And that's why you do see the people with the insane knockout power like Deontay Wilder making it all the way to a WBC championship when he had relatively low actual technical skill. He's able to get in there with people like Tyson Fury. Now, granted, he got smoked. And I kind of feel like that's where I'm landing on this O'Malley-Marab thing is Sean O'Malley is the face of the UFC.
Right now.
And now that he has been knocked down a notch, he's fighting to determine whether or not
you really are the face.
Right. He gets to keep that position because if he doesn't win, well, who is it now? Well, it can't be Marab, so now we got to go look at a different weight class. The position of face of the UFC is open across every weight class.
We thought it was Pereira. He lost.
We thought it was Pereira. He lost. We thought it was Adesanya.
And Tom Aspinall.
Right.
And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yep. But with the O'Malley and Marab situation, I'm choosing O'Malley. I am believing in the aspect of when Sean O'Malley showed up on Dana White's Contender Series, he didn't have purple hair. He didn't have an owl tattooed on his chest. He didn't have a lot of the stuff that he has now. And I understand that it's easy to lose your way once you really become famous. And I mean,
money does a lot of things to a lot of people. Yeah.
He's already set for the rest of his life. I'll watch anything that Sean O'Malley puts out. It doesn't matter.
He has the highest pay-per-view in UFC.
Right. An insane,
the top 3.
Insane YouTube channel. I mean, absolute. Him and Tim Welch are phenomenal together. Sean O'Malley's going to be just fine. what I want to see is I want to see Sean O'Malley be the face of the UFC like he deserves to be. I think that Merab's a great fighter. I want to see him do well. I wish him nothing but the best. But he's just a very similar fighter to every fighter I've ever seen. And as much as you love it, once it's over with, when you're watching it at the time, it's just kind of rough. You know, I was wishing that Kamaru Usman would lose by the end of his career, and now I'm going to Atlanta to watch Kamaru Usman fight, and I'm praying that he wins.
And I think he could pull it out and beat Buckley, but you got to think he's been out for a while. And anytime somebody besides John Jones, besides John Jones, most people when they take them breaks, look at Stipe. He took a break while he's waiting on John. Got his butt tore up. You got to take all things into account, but you got to think. Merab can fight, he can strike, he can wrestle, and his endurance is crazy. O'Malley's really only got striking.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
You got to think about that and take all things into account. He has the reach advantage. He has the knockout power. I don't think Merab has necessarily knockout power, but he's a great wrestler. He's got the stamina, and he'll point you to death.
If Sean
control the fight,
if Sean gets tired before he can finish Merab, because I think it's a very low percentage chance that Sean O'Malley wins the decision. I think that Sean O'Malley wins within the first 3 rounds by smoking Merab, probably in the first 2 rounds. And the longer it goes to Merab.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And that's where I'm at on that. So sorry for the tangent, but I just wanted to say that I am picking Sean O'Malley, while I know that truthfully Merab is just like many other champions. Usman could be a very much talented and very much skillful fighter who is going in there expected to win. But I'm going with my heart on this one and picking O'Malley. And I think with that, does that wrap up our entire card for UFC?
Yeah, that's the main card. Yeah, we still got, some prelims.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a ton of talent on the prelims, but we got Mandel and Sanchez, and that's gonna be a pretty good little fight.
That's for the BKFC. So they're fighting. They're fighting here in just a little bit, actually. The main card or the preliminary card for the BKFC just started. If you guys have ever seen the BKFC, it's the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. It's owned by David Feldman and Conor McGregor. It's a really good production.
Yeah, the big name.
If you really enjoyed old UFC fights where people actually were looking to fight each other,
got knocked out,
this is what it is. If you want to see people actually answering the scratch, throwing down in the center like you did with Holloway and Gaethje, tune into BKFC. I mean, it is
still the best fight.
Absolutely wonderful. Mundell versus Sanchez is the main event. Dave Mundell, I've been watching him fight. He's 9-1 in BKFC. He's absolutely a hoss. I don't know much about Sanchez. We'll have to see what happens with it, but I just wanted to throw that in there for you guys. Go check out the BKFC. It's really worth your time. Also, we've got a couple other things. Jarbo, I know that you were talking a little bit earlier. You saw a little something on Pereira, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so Pereira was talking about he's got another fight. He hasn't announced who he's fighting, but he has said that he is fighting and he is focused and ready to come back strong and reclaim his belt. So, I'm trying to think of who he could be fighting, to be honest, and what weight class he's fighting at. I'm assuming he's going back to light heavyweight.
You got Ankalaev at 205.
Unless he's going to try to refight Ankalaev on a quick rematch, which would be great because, they're always talking about he never fought a wrestler.
Yeah.
He was only a striker. He wasn't this, he wasn't that. I think he needs to refight Ankalaev, in my opinion, and prove that he is the best. And then once he reclaims that, that loss, I mean, he's talking about winning at 2 or 3 different belts. Who's without a belt right now? Who's the interim champion? Tom Aspinall. If Ankalaev gave you trouble, this will prove to him he's not a 3-belt champion, because Pereira, I love him so much, but he is not big enough to fight the heavyweights.
I'll never forget watching Adesanya get beat by Jan Blachowicz. And Jan Blachowicz, great fighter, super talented, very similar to Joe Pyfer in the aspects of his game plan and what he's going to try to do. And dude, there's a lot to be said for size. Okay, I mean,
especially
there's a
when
reason.
You get over that 200-pound range,
right?
Because heavyweight, you have such a range. As long as you're not over what, 275 or something.
It's 265.
265. Okay, so you can be 206 to 265. That's a 60-pound range, buddy. You got tons of room to play with right there.
And that for me,
when you're on the lower end of it, I mean.
There's a big difference between a 200-pound man and a 260-pound man on top of you.
Right. John takes as much time as he did to go to heavyweight. I think that if Alex Pereira ever dreamed of going to heavyweight, he should take a full year.
Yeah.
Look, I know the guy's a giant. I'm not saying he's not a giant, but there are real giants, okay?
And he's got the striking, but does he have the wrestling? And those big guys that can wrestle, you don't want that weight on top of.
No, dude, absolutely. Curtis Blades, look, you put Pereira against Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades is taking him down, and I'm not here to blow smoke up, Curtis Blades' dress or anything by any stretch, but the man's a talented wrestler, and Alex Pereira has proven that he doesn't do well against wrestlers, period. And that's why, if you look at a lot of the fights that he's had, they've kind of been what I would say curated. A lot of the top strikers that we're seeing in the division, they're getting right past a lot of the Dagestani guys. They're getting past a lot of the American wrestlers. Even on the women's side with people like Juliana, even earlier in her career, they weren't putting a striker against a grappler. They were kind of trying to fit grapplers on grapplers and strikers on strikers. And for me, I like to see a grappler on a striker, you know? And
exposes the weaknesses. It makes a fight interesting.
Right. So absolutely. I want to see Pereira fight, and it's probably going to be 205. I would think it's going to be Ankalaev. And if it's Ankalaev, hey, guess what he's going to do? He's going to take you down.
But he didn't really take him down much the first round, and that's the thing. He still beat him. And so this is where Alex Pereira better come back. And listen, Alex was at his height. He's at his prime. And he may have been a little overconfident. So you got to take all things into account. Was he focused? When he was really focused, he was running through everything. So, I mean, I think I would love to see him fight one more time against Ankalaev, shut him up. Yeah. Then we have a third fight we can watch and see who really is the best. But also, he can go whichever way he wants, call out some other people he may be thinking of. And, I mean, I think that would be a good one. I think that's really the only one that makes sense right now.
Yeah, I mean, let's just speculate a little bit and say, if it's not Ankalaev, who is it, Alex?
Yeah, who is
it? So I'm honestly not sure who he could fight at 205, and it makes sense. But I mean, it would either have to be Ankalaev or him going out, in my opinion.
Hill, after that loss, he was talking a whole bunch of crap. Roundtree, showed him that he's way better than Hill, but them two are about to fight. Yep. I don't think he'll go back and fight Hill unless them two fight, next. You got to let Hill and Roundtree at least fight, see how that goes. And then maybe you go, I'll take the winner of those two or Ankalaev.
But he's already beat both of them. And now Roundtree didn't go out. He didn't get him out of the cage, but he also beat him the whole time. That was one of the worst.
That was one of the bloodiest and worst fights we've ever seen in the year.
But let me say this too.
I was just thinking about just the murder that was occurring.
But let me say this too. That for him to not go out of that cage is one of the greatest showings of heart of any human being I've ever seen in my life. For him not to give up. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say Thiago Santos and John Jones and Khalil Roundtree and Pereira were definitely that way. But yeah, I think it's a really good fight. I think the 205 division is really up for grabs. I would love to see him fight somebody like Sean Brady. I think that Sean Brady could really put it on him.
That would be a good fight. Sean Brady's on fire right now. He's on talk about somebody ascending. Sean Brady is the next guy.
Sean Brady,
he's already had his lull. He's on his way up again.
I fully believe that Sean Brady would put him down. The only thing is that Pereira's in 205 right now. So when he said my belt, that could be either. That could be 85 or 205.
I don't think him dropping back down to 85.
I'm thinking he's staying at 205, but just a little bit of wishful thinking. I'd love to see him fight somebody like Sean Brady.
I don't know if he can make that cut anymore. He's just that's a big guy. I mean, he doesn't look big, but he's huge. Yeah. He's massive.
Yeah.
I just think he needs to work on the wrestling.
Yeah. I think a couple of 85ers need to bump up. I think a couple of the fringe heavies need to bump down. The 205 division, just since John Jones left, Cormier, all those guys, it's been in a rebuilding mode.
How about Jones saying he could beat Cormier even worse at heavyweight than he did at,
Until John Jones dies, he's going to say something about Daniel Cormier, okay?
They try to act buddy-buddy, but they hate each other.
One thing's a fact about John Jones. I love John Jones. He's the man, okay? Even in the bad times, I like John Jones. Same thing with Conor McGregor. Even in the bad times, I'm not sitting here saying I want him to babysit my kids. I'm saying that I want to pay money to watch him fight.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to it no matter how it goes. But for John Jones, he is always going to have something.
Always.
He always builds in this little thing where he's like, but I hate you.
Yeah.
And you may not like me, but I hate you.
I literally
And-
want you to die.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as long as he thinks that you're a horrible human and that you stole his lunch money and you said that his brothers suck,
Even
then
if
he
you
will
didn't.
then he's going to kill you. And that's what makes John Jones elite. And I love him and he's phenomenal. But kind of talking on that, you guys want to talk a little bit about Aspinall and Jones for a second?
This has been an
I do
interesting
have something to say. We have extreme breaking news. Extreme breaking news. So let me pull this up in browser. And I'm pulling y'all back up.
No. Oh no!
This just came
You said
across
it
my
right.
screen
The last fight
right
you talked
now.
about maybe coming back, so this is good news right here.
Former
I
UFC
would love to
two-division
see this.
champion Amanda Nunes unretires, wants to face the winner of Pena versus Harrison, coming
that
back
would be
to
great.
her belt, to her rightful
This goes back
place.
to why I would like Pena to win.
Hey
She
man.
wins, and Nunez comes back and reclaims the belt from the loss she had. You know, like that'd be epic fight right there. And those two,
Kayla Harrison waiting, that's 2 fights. You don't even have to book. Talk about making an easy job on the
that'd be
UFC.
great.
Hey, she's
Freaking
a
Amanda
company
Nunes
woman.
just saved them.
She
Look, you
is
see
a
how she's got
company
both.
woman.
You see how she has both belts in that picture right there?
Yep.
She's got to come back and take.
I've got an extremely hot take. I think that she'll come back and take Juliana Pena's belt, and then I think that she'll fight Kayla at 45 to bring it back, and she'll get that one too.
She
That's
could
what I
also drop. Well, no, I don't know if she can make that drop to 25 and fight Shevchenko one last time.
No.
I just
She
want to
doesn't
see
want
that
to.
fight again so bad.
Yeah, Shevchenko's a great champion. I love watching her fight, but you know, I don't think she compares to Amanda. I don't think that she compares to Amanda as far as the draw goes. I don't think she compares to Amanda as far as just what we've seen her accomplish. Valentina Shevchenko is an amazing fighter, and I think that she's still got a lot of tread left on the tires. But I see Amanda coming back and dominating whoever she fights. Really, I think a little bit of time away, being able to refocus, reset her brain a little bit is probably going to help. A little bit of healing from long-standing injuries. I mean, when you fight every year for years and years and years, decades even,
Yep.
you're going to have a lot of cumulative damage. So I'm excited. That's awesome.
Yeah. Sorry, I just had to throw that back out there, but we can get back to the John Jones situation.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thanks for bringing that, and that's great. So we'll be looking at Amanda Nunes fighting whoever wins this fight this weekend. So definitely tune in to see Kayla Harrison and you just threw me off.
Pena.
Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison. There we go. And so whoever wins that fight is going to go directly into a fight with the scariest woman that's ever graced the cage. So
Yep.
that's pretty awesome. But moving on, we're going to go on to Jones and Aspinall. So for Jones and Aspinall, I'd just like to start by saying that
John Jones is the greatest, as Dana White would say.
He is.
whatever's happening in their negotiations, it's the same thing that's happened every time that John Jones has fought since I probably graduated high school. Every fight that he fights in, he's going to take the fight. He's not going to turn the fight down. He's not going to not show up, but he's going to make it difficult for his opponent. He's going to cause emotional stress for them, and then they're going to show up and they're not going to bring their A game.
But did you see what he just announced today?
What?
He said he's open to fighting Ngannou again, who everybody said he dodged and ducked and everything. But he said Ngannou, if he's open for it, and he heard he is, that he's interested in that. So there's two ways to look at it. Is he really ducking Tom, or is he wanting to fight super fights and make a bunch of money?
Right.
I mean, because listen, the
I don't-
Middle Eastern people, they're throwing a lot of money at these super fights. Look at boxing.
Yeah, no
Yep.
doubt.
So if you really want to talk about a super fight, we wanted that. Think about how bad we wanted that fight
Oh yeah.
when
Oh,
it
yeah.
was there.
Oh yeah, man.
And now Ngannou, he looked great against Tyson Fury in the boxing match.
Yep.
I mean, he's never boxed.
Right.
And he fought the best boxer ever.
did better than Deontay Wilder did, and he
Right.
boxed.
And so, I mean, I think that would be a great fight to come back and see. Now, I'm always gonna have money on John Jones, even though Francis Ngannou can knock you and put you in the grave. John Jones is so well rounded. But really, I mean, which one would you rather see, Aspinall or John Jones versus Ngannou?
I think they got to do both. I think that Madison Square Garden's already booked for the fall.
Already booked.
And so if Madison Square Garden's there, then John Jones is there. And so I think that he'll be there. I think he'll fight Tom. I love Tom
He
Aspinall.
said he hadn't been training since his last fight. So
Yeah, and he lies. You talking about Tom or you talking about John?
John, he says he hasn't been training.
Yeah, he said he wasn't deadlifting either. And then I saw a video of him deadlifting like 3 cars. You know what I mean? Like he said he wasn't doing he said he was retired and then he comes back at heavyweight and wins the championship. He said he wasn't ever going to fight DC again. Beat his ass.
Yeah.
You know what I
I'll
mean?
say this too.
So
I've never seen anybody come close to beating John Jones. There has been 2 instances ever where you can make an
Yes.
argument. And I love one of these
Mhm.
people. Alexander Gustafsson, the first fight,
Yeah.
you can make
And that
an
was
argument.
a close fight.
100%. You can make an
Yeah.
argument for that. But as someone who loves Gustafsson, I went back and watched that fight like probably 6 months ago. John Jones won the fight.
it wasn't as
in the
close as
moment
people
live. Yeah, when you're caught up in the moment live, it just feels so different, and I could see why people would think one way or the other. But that one's out the
And
window.
like they say, close is only matters when it's horseshoe and hand grenades. Nobody cares about close. It's who came out on top. John Jones came out on top,
Right.
and he's proven since then he is the best.
Yeah.
Where's Gustafsson?
He retired. He's
He's
Exactly.
retired
Probably-
now.
retired, but he's not fighting. I know that.
He's not fighting,
Not in the UFC.
and he definitely ain't fighting top guys.
No.
So
No.
it's like, even if let's say he did win, where's he at now?
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So it's all irrelevant at this point.
But Dominic Reyes is the other fight. Dominic Reyes fought him hard. That was the craziest fight I've ever seen John Jones in. Period. He was the closest to losing that one, in my opinion. And that was a man who had nothing to lose flying at a man who had everything to lose, who was at the
Everything
pinnacle
is.
of the sport. He just around that time crowned the greatest to ever grace the octagon. But looking
still
back at
is.
that one also,
Mhm.
he did the most damage, yes, but John still won that whole fight. He landed more, he controlled the cage. Like there was just a lot that goes into all that. If you're scoring it the way like a sport is supposed to be scored, I 100% see how John Jones won that. If you're scoring that how the boys win a fight, Reyes won that fight. But
Right. Damage like always goes a long ways. But when you're
That's-
pointing it out,
yep. But that's the only time John Jones has ever come close to losing. So if you're looking at Tom Aspinall
and that's been
and
a
John
long time
Jones,
ago.
yep, I just have a really hard time saying John Jones is going to lose anything after I just watched him choke Cyril Gahn against the cage in
And they're
45
saying,
seconds.
talking about Aspinall, they're saying that he may be fighting Cyril Gahn, and I think that would be a good deciding factor if he should fight Aspinall. Because
He already beat Gone. So
did he?
Yeah. Well,
Aspinall did?
Jones beat Gone.
no, but I'm
so
talking about
like-
Aspinall. So
yeah,
there's
but then we got to watch Gone get destroyed by Jones again if he loses.
no. I think
There's
what's going to
chance
happen.
that Gone and Aspinall have a close fight than it is that Jones and Aspinall have a close
But
fight.
here's my thing: if you're wanting to make the debate for the Aspinall John Jones fight, right? You're going to have to let Gahn, who everybody
There's
thinks
no debate. They got to fight.
they need to fight, let them fight, and the winner fights John Jones then. And if it's Aspinall, then great. We both beat Gahn. Who did it quicker? You did probably, but I still look good. It depends on how great Aspinall looks in it. And let's see if this fight's worth making. Because what if Gahn comes around and beats Aspinall?
Right.
Now, do I think that's going to happen? Probably not.
Right.
I think Tom Aspinall is the biggest threat John Jones has fought in a long time, if ever.
Yeah.
But what if Game somehow
I'm
pulls
with,
it out?
I'm with you on that, Pat.
Then the talk of Aspinall John Jones is over.
Right.
And John Jones looks right, and everybody can quit calling him the Duck.
Right. I think I would like to see a mixture of that. What I would like to see is I would like to see Aspinall and Jones fight basically immediately. And then if they're talking the Ngannou fight and they're going to do some Saudi money, then let's do it. Let's do Jones and Aspinall. Either way it goes.
I think Jones
you
is waiting
still-
on the Saudi money.
Well, you still have the fight, no matter what. You still have the Ngannou fight separate, and you still have the Gahn and Aspinall fight separate. So if Aspinall wins the championship, well, then John Jones is not sticking around. Who is he going to fight? If he sticks around, he is he going to spend 3 years of his life refighting Tom Aspinall twice? Because that's the only
No.
fight in the heavyweight division that's even relatively close.
Yeah.
So it's one of
The
those
talent
things.
level between Aspinall and the other guys is already there.
Right.
And then, but I also think the talent level, like you got the guys, and then you got Aspinall, and then I think you got John Jones.
Right.
So is where,
John
I
Jones.
agree with that. There's no level. The levels are so far apart, it doesn't make sense for sure.
John Jones wins, retires from the UFC,
As the greatest ever.
greatest ever.
There's no argument at that point.
Not even close. He retires from the UFC. He goes over, he fights Francis Ngannou, and then if he ever wants to do anything else again, we'd be lucky to have him. But overall, that'll probably be the last time we ever see John Jones.
Because there's been very few fighters over 40 win the championship. Besides Pereira's coach, what's his name? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Glover Teixeira.
Glover, yes.
Teixeira
yeah.
was an outlier.
He won at what, 42 or 45, something
Yeah.
like that. But how many people have won over 40? Very few, if any, besides Glover.
Absolutely.
There's very few. So I don't see John fighting over 40. I don't see him fighting after this year. I think if we're going to see him, it's going to be this year. I don't see us seeing him after that, which sucks because, man, we both grew up watching him. Alex, you grew up watching him. I mean, but since this is the 20th year of Ultimate Fighter, that means we've been watching UFC for 20 plus years together.
100%. 100%.
The talent we've seen come and go, the fights we've watched. I mean, there's very few people that are as dedicated as us three right here that have watched almost every UFC fight, almost every pay-per-view. We may not watch every fight night, but we've watched almost every pay-per-view since high school.
Right. And we watch almost
And the Ultimate Fighter shows. And there's been a lot of talent and champions come from that.
Yeah.
And speaking of talent and champions, next week, after this week in Atlanta, we'll get 2 former champions fighting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be great. I mean, we've got some good cards coming up. And for a fight night next week, next week's going to be a good fight night. We get very few stacked fight night cards. This one's stacked.
That fight night card, I feel like, should be the prelim and early prelim to this card, and they should knock a few of the people off of the main card.
We got 2 former champions.
You got 3 now because you've got Rose, you got Kamaru Usman, and Cody Garbrandt.
Oh yeah,
They threw Cody Garbrandt on late, and they didn't tell anybody about it. Definitely be tuning in.
Yeah, that's
Cody Garbrandt. We know he's been on a slide. I'm not going to say anything about
he's older and he's been fighting forever.
Hey,
but he's
that's right.
always an interesting fight.
Yeah,
We got
Always.
this too.
He's
We
got-
got this too. Look, so his last fights, I've got the card pulled up. Now, he lost here, but he won 2 before that. Like, he fought Figueiredo and lost. That's not
But
the
Figueiredo's
same
a
thing.
great fighter.
Yeah,
Right.
he's the peak of the sport.
right.
And
And Figueiredo's just always been so talented and one step above everybody,
Yeah.
even at his old age. You got to
Yeah.
think about how long Figueiredo's been fighting. Both of him and Garbrandt both been fighting
Right.
forever.
Right.
yep.
And with the main event, with that being Usman and Buckley.
That's gonna be a great call.
Hey, Usman, people love to talk about how Usman has a hard time getting around or whatever.
We don't need to get too in
Well,
depth.
listen.
We're gonna save it for next week.
Listen,
But
I,
that's gonna be a great card.
I don't care what anybody says. If they got to roll him out to the cage, he's got a chance. Okay.
Yes.
The same people can say whatever they want to about how Tyron Woodley went out, but let me tell you something. Nobody talks about the fact that Tyron Woodley stood there for 10 years laying people straight on their back.
Laying them out.
Okay.
Oh.
And so it's one of those things where I see Usman. I know he's at the end of his career. This is one more feather. You know what I mean? I think that
But he
could
seems
absolutely
focused.
do it.
He seems
Hey,
focused.
Joaquin Buckley, the Impa Kasengane spinning back kick knockout. I watch it to go to sleep sometimes at night. Literally, I watch him to go to sleep, and it makes me immediately close my eyes and I pass out. Joaquin Buckley, freak of nature athlete, looks like a hero. I make my wife look away from the screen when he comes on it. It's unbearable. You know what I mean? But Kamaru Usman is a dog,
He's talented.
I got Marty from Nebraska, hands down. I'm going Marty from Nebraska. Look, I'm pulling for Buckley. I want to see him do a good job. I want to see them both have fun, but I want to see Kamaru Usman win.
That card's stacked. Well, we're gonna have to talk about that on the next episode. But, that card I'm very excited about, and the whole card is stacked. I think even the prelims have some really good. If I'm not mistaken, had some good
Paul
fights
Craig
on
on
that
the
set.
prelims.
Paul
Michael
Craig.
Chiesa on the
He's the main event of
prelims.
the prelims. As much as I hate he's lost his last fight or last 2 fights, I love watching Paul Craig fight. I mean, I do. So that's going to be very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Do y'all have anything else for this episode?
Yeah, I would say I'd just like to wrap it up on a couple little things. I'd like to talk a little bit about the scenario that you had going on in your own home, featuring the video game Fortnite and your son.
Let me tell you, if I have any advice for anybody, do not leave a credit card on your account for Fortnite because your kid will spend $1,800 on V-Bucks. Needless to say, my son has enjoyed 4 walls for the last week and this next week coming up. And he will be doing chores and grass cutting and everything else, and maybe some stuff for you guys at y'all's houses for the next probably 6 months. And he has no more Xbox. So, yeah, talk about wanting to go WWE on your own child. That was where I was at this week. Let me tell you, $1,800 since March on V-Bucks.
In $10 increments. My favorite
in
part.
$10 increments. He didn't buy the bundles. He bought $10 increments. You don't even get the bonus V-Bucks. You get just $10 worth of V-Bucks.
No discount, just straight maxing it, dude.
Let me
just
tell you.
maxing it. But no, that's great. We love Triller, and we're proud of him for at least giving you a little bit of yourself back to you.
Oh man.
You know, and then 2 other things I want to talk about. Just wanted to briefly talk to you guys about Power Slap. If you've never checked out Power Slap, definitely tune in. They're live on Rumble most times.
I can only watch Power Slap so long, but it is just straight knock. Listen, let me tell you this: I ain't gonna stand there and let nobody hit me.
No,
But
those guys are some real men and a different talent, all in itself. You know,
they got Paige Van Zandt out there now. Look, he flinches.
And you want to talk about a hottie?
But no, Paige Van Zandt. Every time that she goes to get slapped, because you have to stand with your hands behind your back, and the opponent lines up with their hand across your face, measures, and smacks you. Okay. And every time, right before Paige Van Zandt gets hit, she goes, little turtle. And don't get me wrong, I'm flinching, but I didn't sign up for this. Okay.
No.
So if you sign up to get slapped in the face, you got to stand still, dude. No, if you flinch, you get slapped again. Are you kidding me? That's the worst penalty of all time. Could you imagine in the UFC if you kicked somebody in the nuts, they allowed you to kick somebody else in the nut back?
Nope.
That's what I'm saying. Tune in to Power Slap. Check it out. It's really good. Also want to talk a little bit about Trump and Elon. So look.
That's a war that's been going on right now this week. That's been very interesting. What do you think about it, Alex?
I mean, so do I think that
Best
somehow
friends to enemies.
Do I think that somehow Donald Trump's name ended up on some list somewhere that had to do with Epstein in some way, shape, or form? Very possible.
Epstein's lawyer already disproved that's true, though. He already came out and said that's not true. So
He might have
I'm
said that,
interested to
but
see what's true and false.
Am I saying he's on the client list? No. Trump's not on that list of the disgusting human beings. Now,
I don't know.
Could he be? Maybe. Do I think so? Probably not. But
I
that's
love
just
Trump.
me
I hope
wanting
he's
to.
not.
That's me wanting to,
But also, you got to think about
see the
this.
best in
Trump's had
people.
public beef with other people before that was all faked for a certain reason. I don't know what they got going on in their inner workings, but could this be something that's staged? They were too good of buddies to just start beefing out of nowhere like this. And I mean, I know Elon's pretty mad about the bill, but is it worth them both throwing away all their livelihood and just Elon lost $34 billion just beefing with Trump? Is that really worth it to stage something?
Well,
And can he come back from it?
To me, I own a Tesla. So I've worked with 2 of Elon's companies. Elon is an extremely talented businessman. He probably, out of all of the companies I've ever worked with, Tesla and SpaceX, by far are the most advanced. So when he got into Doge and was able to go and find, let's say, misspending, maybe
Fraud and waste.
right, whatever you may label it, we're not going to choose. But when he did find that, I believe that in his heart he thought that there would truly be like a very quick and sweeping solution, and that's kind of not what happened. Kind of what happened was he showed up with his paper and said, "Hey, look, these are all the problems we have.
Fix it, and nothing happened."
Right, because Elon, we had a robot down on his line one time, and he stood there watching my guys program this robot until they were done because it wasn't going to go for the rest of the day. And he's like, "Y'all need to stay here all night. We're staying here all night. We got a downtime event. We have to go." And so for me, when I look at a person like Elon, I think that the bottom line and the results, he's so results driven that in a bureaucratic situation, he may have had a little bit of disagreement with Trump. I think more than likely it's real. I think it would be too smart for it to be fake. But it's just sad all around. And the reason why it makes me sad is because you got two people, the leader of the free world, and
the richest man in the world.
Right, one of the smartest people.
On paper, one of the
Right.
richest men in the world. The Saudis, we all know, have more money
Right.
than Elon. But
Right.
that being said, that is
Right.
two of the biggest heads fighting, especially in America.
Right. And so it's a little bit of a letdown. It's really disappointing because I feel like a lot of people jumped behind the Republican Party thinking they were going to do more libertarian shit. And as somebody who's been a libertarian my whole life, the only libertarians that exist are Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, and his dad Ron, and that's about it, that have ever made it anywhere to do anything. And so I think that, unfortunately, just like the first term of Trump's presidency, I was so excited for him to be elected president, and then slowly was just disappointed by what I would call just childish arguments. And I feel like we're in the middle of a childish argument again, and it's like we've got a little bit bigger shit going on.
And how does the rest of the world look at us as we're arguing like this when you got Ukraine and Russia bombing the shit out of each other?
If you've got a line of vulnerability, it went like this. You know what I mean? And like whatever that number is, it's no longer zero. Not that it was ever zero, but that's where I'm at on it. Alex, what do you think?
I mean, like I said, I don't think he's on some crazy list like the way Elon painted it on Twitter. And I really don't think that whatever is happening is as bad as Elon's trying to paint it to be. But I think there will be something that comes out and kind of, I don't want to say smears, but it'll be like they were together at this cafe type thing. That's kind of crappy. But like, also, Trump's entire deal is he's willing to deal with anybody to make whatever he needs to happen. Because you want to talk about results driven Elon, Trump is results driven. And if it didn't work for him, it is out the window, on to the next one, and we are going to make it bigger and better than you can even imagine. That's literally his mantra. But
I know it's his mantra. I'm just not sure if I've ever seen it.
Oh shoot. Leader of the free world now.
I've seen the benefits of him being president versus having literally a skeleton as a president for 4 years. I mean, there's a big difference between a dead human being the president and a live human being the president. I really thought that it would be a little bit different this time, and I'm a little disappointed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we're only a couple of months into it, though. There's very little that happens the first year, even most of the time.
I understand. But that's kind of my point, is that if Doge is out and we're not even through with the first year, well, then Doge was a political ploy. It wasn't actually a goal.
Right.
Where a person like me, you look at me and you say, hey, we're going to eliminate government spending. We're going to eliminate government overreach.
And you can't say you're going to eliminate government spending and then go up on the budget.
Right. Take my vote. I'm in. I don't want the government to get any larger ever. There's no sense for it.
Well, here's the one condition I think, which I think Trump has been doing some of. You can let the government spending going up if you're beefing up your inventory on, tanks, missiles, military wise, whatever we're doing there, drones. They're doing the Iron Dome,
right? But obviously, I'm not about to hear it. I'm not about to hear it if you're selling weapons to other people. Like if we have if Redstone Arsenal is making Tomahawk missiles, and then Tomahawk missiles go to the Ukraine, and then Tomahawk missiles go from the Ukraine and then into Russia, that's not a libertarian principle,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So, like for me, it's like if those are our weapons, then they're our weapons,
right?
Period. And so it's not that I don't want people in the Ukraine to be supported. That's not at all what I'm saying. But we should never support anyone at the cost of our own infrastructure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so.
But you got the Iron Dome that's coming up. Yeah. That's costing a bunch of money. And if we're beefing up our military, then I can understand, if we cut some here, but it still costs a lot more to go over here and beef up our military, then I can understand why the budget goes up. Right. But other than that, that's really the only place I have a leg to stand on.
Right. Right. Nope. And, we all hope for the best, and we want to see the best for this country is really the main takeaway from that. But I just figured we could talk a little bit about it. And, Alex, you have anything else to say on it?
I think that's it for me.
Awesome, man. Well, that really wraps up everything we've got. We talked about Pereira. We talked about Amanda Nunes' breaking info. So we need to cut that clip and definitely get that out to the people as soon as possible, so that way they know what's up. But other than that, I think we're probably good on this one. And
Good first episode.
yeah, good first episode number 1. So
please follow us, join, watch some more.
Yeah, if you enjoyed it, definitely let us know what we did right, what we did wrong. We've got thick skin, we're big boys. So if there's more things that you'd like to see, if there's a different format you'd like to see, definitely hit us in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Other than that, we'll see you back next week. We're going to be talking about UFC Fight Night for Atlanta. We'll be headed there and be bringing you some coverage from the event. So
we'll have some live video from there. That's going to be cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely tune in, and we look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thanks.
Boom. First one in the books, dude.